Hey folks, Gary here. Hey, we've been looking at 2 Kings chapter 5 about Elijah and Naaman. And so we come into an interesting little part here, verses 17 and 19. And let's just read it. So we're going to dive into it right now. Naaman kept begging, but Elijah kept refusing. What was Naaman begging about? He wanted to reward Elijah for his part in the miracle that took place. And Elijah says, I want nothing to do with it. It was all God. It had nothing to do with me. You keep your silver and gold. I don't want it, right? Because you can't buy a miracle from God. And Elijah's like, I don't need your money. God takes care of my needs. You just keep your money. So continue on. Finally, Naaman said, if you won't accept a gift, then please let me take home as much soil as 2 mules can put into a wagon. Sir, from now on, I will offer sacrifices only to the Lord. So Naaman is sold out. He knows that the Lord is the Lord. He knows that the God of Israel is the only God. He used to worship Baal, right? Just like everyone in his country did. But now he understands that's nothing. God is God, and he only wants to worship the Lord, so he wants to take stuff back with him. But he's got a problem, and the problem is this. If we go on to verse 18, it says, but I pray that the Lord will forgive me when I go into the temple of the God of Rimmon and bow down there with the king of Syria. He's concerned. Why? Because his king, the one he serves, he's the commander of the army, but he's got a king. When the king of Syria goes in to worship this false god, he says, I got to go with him. I got to go in and I got to bow down too. It's like, oh, what do I do, right? Pray that God will forgive me for this. And then, so as a pastor, like if you, or someone came up to you and asked, what do I do in this situation? What kind of answer would you give them? Well, Elijah gives an answer that might surprise us. Elijah says this, go on home and don't worry about that, Elijah replied. Then Naaman left. That's all he gives him for an answer. Go home, don't worry about that. What is he saying? Well, I think what he's saying is this. You know that the Lord is the Lord. You know that God is God. You know that Baal is nothing. You've experienced that now. Don't worry about it, right? You got to do your official duties. Go do your official duties, but keep worshiping God instead. And it's kind of like when Marna and I, when we were expecting our daughter 26 years ago, we took these birthing classes, right? And they wanted us to meditate on, well, all sorts of things they wanted us to meditate on. And Marna looked at me and says, what do we do? And I said, let's just pray to God. Let's just meditate on him instead, right? They can't tell you what to meditate on. Let's just meditate on that instead. Why? Because what they want us to do, it had no power over us, and it wasn't a concern at all. Now, as a Christian, should you be careful where you go? Yeah, of course you should be. That's as a non-Christian, you should be careful where you go. But understand, it has no power over you. God is God, and the Lord is the Lord. And basically what Elijah is doing is he is trusting Naaman to the Lord, that the Lord will take care of him. And we already know the Lord does, because we read earlier in chapter 5, the Lord was giving Naaman victories, and Naaman didn't even know who he was at that point in time. So we trust Naaman to the Lord, and we trust ourselves to God as well. So there you go. Interesting study. So what advice would you have given Naaman? That's a question. So you can ask that in the comments. Have a fantastic Friday.